Everyone, the Google Pixel 6a ended up officially coming out, so let's go and compare it against the iPhone SE 2022 model, the third generation, and see which one is the better budget phone for you. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, the links will be down in the description, and you can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, I will tell you, both these phones are roughly around the same price tag. The Pixel 6a, $449. Google did send this out to me, so keep that in mind. It's not really going to change my opinion, I don't think. With the iPhone SE 3, on the other hand, $429 iPhone here. I will say there are pros and cons between both, but the Pixel 6a is kind of the one I think would probably be the better one, just because it is probably doing more with the value per dollar rather than the iPhone SE 3, but there still are some advantages for an iPhone. Now, starting off with the front, the iPhone SE 3 had a 4.7-inch display. Now, I don't really understand why Apple is still recycling the same design. I feel like for a company who makes so much money like Apple, they could be doing a little bit of a better job, and I feel like with this type of design, it's just too archaic. People are still going to buy this phone, but interestingly enough, they actually haven't been selling extremely well, at least compared to what I think Apple wants. With a display on the front, I think it's great. Touch ID on the front too, and that kind of covers it up. It's been the same design for many, many years now. Hopefully Apple can go and change it up a little bit. On the Pixel 6a, on the other hand, what's very, very interesting is Google took almost the same exact design that they had on their Pixel 6, which is a little bit more expensive than this phone, and they kind of placed it on this one. It's a little bit smaller than the Pixel 6, but you do have a 6.1-inch OLED display on the iPhone on the Pixel 6a. Now, one thing I will tell you, the panel I think is better on the Pixel 6a, but the iPhone SE 3's panel isn't really too far off. Like, I understand this is IPS and it's a low resolution, but this is still not a bad panel. It's just everything surrounding this panel is ugly. This panel, on the other hand, is better because of the hole punch display and because of everything, because it just looks like it's so much of a better phone. So I think the Pixel 6a kind of wins on the, at least with the display in terms of thickness and thickness, as you guys can see. The Pixel 6a is much thicker than the iPhone SE 3. So if you want a thinner, phone, the iPhone SE 3 is definitely the better way to go. Volume buttons here, power button, volume button on the other side for the Pixel 6a. On the back, this is also very, very interesting. Single camera setup on the iPhone SE 3, dual camera setup on the Pixel 6a. Now, that is one thing to keep in mind. I will say there are some advantages for the iPhone SE 3 camera, which we'll get into in a second. Glass backs on both, and feeling both phones in the hand, they both feel very, very premium. I will say the Pixel 6a probably feels a little bit more premium just because it feels it's a bigger phone and it's heavier, but the iPhone SE 3 does have wireless charging, which is really cool. The Pixel 6a, on the other hand, no wireless charging on that phone. I'm kind of sad about that. I feel like they could have supported it, IP certification on both phones as well, but there's no wireless charging on the Pixel 6a, so keep that in mind. Now, in terms of the overall software experience between both, luckily for you, they're both on stock Android and stock iOS, so you're going to be getting a stockish experience between both. I will say for the phone that's going to last the longest, it's probably going to be for the iPhone SE 2022 model. I feel like this is probably going to be the phone that most people will probably end up buying if you want a longer lasting phone. And this thing, although it looks like a phone from 2014, it has the latest chipset that Apple made. So unless they're switching over to their M series of chipsets, I think these ones are probably going to be the better ways to go if you want a long lasting phone. But the Pixel 6a is still going to be lasting, I think, for another 3 years on full OS updates and another year of security updates. So this phone for the next few years is not going anywhere anytime soon. And I will say on top of that, you're probably not going to even think about buying this phone in the next 2-3 years. So if you're getting this phone now or the next year or two, you're going to be keeping this phone, and by then the Pixel 8 or 9 will be out and you can go and buy those ones. So I will say for both these phones, the iPhone SE 3 may last longer, but physically and design-wise, the Pixel 6a looks like the newer phone, and this one will probably hold you off a little bit longer than something like the iPhone SE 3. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these phones. The Pixel 6a has that Google Tensor chipset inside of it with 6 GB of RAM, where the iPhone SE 3 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 GB of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both of these. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, as you guys can see. So let's get into it. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone SE 3 was slightly faster there. Let's get into camera, 3, 2, 1. A little bit of a different option there, but I think they both are roughly around the same thing. Let's go and hop out of there. Let's go and get into camera. Let's get into photos, 3, 2, 1. And kind of around the same thing as well, so not really that big of a difference there. Hopping out of here, let's go and get into clock, 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone SE 3 was slightly faster there to load into that one. Now we do have some of these third-party applications we can go in and get into. Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. Now I'm here if any pop-ups come up. Hopefully they don't. And we can see that the Pixel 6a, and this one we did get into a pop-up. The Pixel 6a was faster to load into it, but we did get into a pop-up on the iPhone SE3, so definitely keep that in mind. Let's go and get into Twitter. 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone SE3 is slightly slower there, just by a little bit. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully there are no pop-ups on either one of these, so I'm keeping my hands close. We do have this downloading content panel on the bottom, and we did get into a pop-up. And we got into another pop-up. So we need to kind of give this one maybe like 2 seconds, but even at that point, I feel like the Pixel 6a probably would have still been a faster phone at that moment. So that's probably something to keep in mind as well. As you can see, we got into here. Let's go and get into this basic games. Okay, whatever. Let's go and click play. I don't know why we had to click so many things to get into this game, but both of them kind of look like they're running the same, so it's not really that big of a deal here either. Hopping out of this one, let's do Snapchat, 3, 2, 1. So we did get into another pop-up between both. I hate when that happens. Hopping out of here, let's go and get into Thank You, 3. I don't have it here. We can do Facebook, 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone SE3 was slightly faster there too. We can try other stock applications. So we can try like Files, for example, 3, 2, 1. And even then, I think the iPhone SE3 was slightly faster there. And we can try something else. We can try like Calculator or something, but we already know which one. It's pretty much going to be the faster one when it comes down to it, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I think the iPhone has been doing a pretty good job at kind of opening up apps a little bit faster here and there, but I do think it's been very close, and there were several times where the Pixel 6a was also the faster one when it came down to it. Settings, 3, 2, 1. So I think even for an application like this, you're getting a very good experience between both. We can try their app stores as well, 3, 2, 1. So I don't really think there's one that's significantly faster than the other one. I think the iPhone SE3 did a pretty good job, but I also think the Pixel 6a did a pretty good job today as well. So when it comes down to it, I will probably side with something like the Pixel 6a being a very fast phone. I think the iPhone SE3 may still be a little bit faster overall and a little bit of a smoother experience, but you are lacking things like the gesture-based design on the iPhone SE3 that the Pixel 6a has the opportunity of having. So that kind of covers it up in the speed comparison. If we're hitting on the cameras as well, I will tell you, just like how I told you earlier, single camera setup on the iPhone SE3 and dual camera setup on the Pixel 6a. Now we can do 4K at 60 on the back and 1080p on the front of both these, so they're both kind of lacking in the same direction. I will say that with the iPhone SE3 camera, this was a pretty okay camera. It's not really even that great, and I will say the Pixel 6a probably has a leg up when it comes down to the overall camera. But one thing I've always been demonstrating is with iPhones, one thing that's very weird, that for Androids, I don't know why, the zooming in and out is very annoying. On Androids, it's just so glitchy. On iPhones, it's so smooth, as you guys can see. And even with a phone with a single sensor, it's like so smooth to zoom in and out. Now, photos and videos, I think will still look okay. Portrait mode is here too. But the difference between an iPhone SE2 and an SE3, very little difference. And I think this camera may give you better image quality overall, but it's not really going to be that great. And it's probably going to be very similar to an iPhone SE2 that came out in 2020. On the Pixel 6a, on the other hand, I really do think this is the better overall camera, but it's still not perfect either. Like I said, no 4K 60 on the front, which most phones have, but neither one of these have it, so that's okay. In this comparison, at least, we don't really have too many crazy more modes on this phone either compared to Samsung's. So if you're going Android, I mean, this camera doesn't really have too many crazy features built in. You do have that ultra-wide sensor though, which is really nice. So having that ability of zooming out inside of a photo or whatever, a video, is really, really cool. The only unfortunate thing though is that zooming in and out, like I said before, is such a glitchy experience. I feel like Google and all these manufacturers can spend a little bit more time in making it a better experience. But I think the Pixel 6a is probably the better camera when it comes down to it. And that kind of sums up how I feel about both these phones, I feel like the Pixel 6a is overall the better phone when it comes down to it. If I had to pick up one, I would probably want to pick up a Pixel 6a, but there are still some advantages, actually a lot of advantages for an iPhone SE3. I love iOS, I love the Apple ecosystem, and these phones have actually gone down in value a lot in the used market. So you can pick up one of these things for less than what you can buy for a Pixel 6a. Obviously, because this is already a cheaper phone than this Pixel 6a, you're saving $30 here. The build quality is still fairly good. You just have an outdated design. You don't have gestures on this thing, which is very annoying. And this is probably the faster phone too. This is probably a faster phone than the Pixel 6a. But the Pixel 6a, for it being $30 more expensive, you're getting almost like a flagship feeling phone. The display is a little bit better here and there. You're getting a much better looking phone overall too, which is really cool. You are lacking things like wireless charging, no 4K on the front, but this one doesn't have it either. But I think the Pixel 6a is probably the one I would recommend more people to buy. But I think the iPhone SE3 is probably still a really okay phone for the price. Like, I don't think the one that screams to me that is a better deal is the Pixel 6a. It is more expensive than the iPhone SE3, but this is probably the phone that I think is a better one when it comes down to it. So that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.